Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're digging into maybe a surprising corner of the Chinese consumer market. We're looking at the rise of something called Sankeng apparel, and specifically, this unexpected popularity of Japanese high school uniforms, JK uniforms.
Yeah, not just as cosplay, right?
Exactly, it's actual casual fashion. Pretty fascinating.
It really is. And, the sources we're using for this deep dive are quite unique. We're mainly drawing from objective market analysis reports.
Yeah.
These aren't like cultural think pieces. They're from security companies in China, and they're analyzing the sector purely for investors, looking at the business side.
Right, which is why they're so useful for us.
Yeah.
No agenda beyond laying out the facts, the market structure, the data, the potential.
Precisely. So our goal here is basically to use these sources to unpack this whole trend for you. Where did it start? How big is it now? What's driving it?
Think of it as a shortcut to getting smart on this, well, niche but really rapidly growing sector.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's jump in. Setting the scene. China's otaku market is just massive, right? Built around ACGN, anime, comic, game, novel.
Huge. And within that whole world, the cosplay scene sort of gave birth to what these reports are calling Sankeng apparel.
Sankeng.
Yeah.
What does that actually mean?
It translates literally to three pits. But think of it more like the Japanese idea of numa, a swamp.
Ah, okay, like something you fall into and get stuck in.
Exactly. Things people get really deeply obsessed with. As they say in Japanese.
So the three pits here are JK uniforms.
Hanfu, that's traditional Chinese clothing.
Right.
And Lolita fashion. Those are the big three.
What's really interesting, though, is how they broke out of just cosplay, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the key point the reports make. These styles have expanded way beyond events into just everyday wear. You see Hanfu around town now.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And the JK uniforms, especially the skirts, they're just common fashion items now. You see them everywhere.
Absolutely. And the business world really started paying attention. I mean, look at PopMart.
The big blind box toy company.
That's the one. They invested millions of yuan into a company called Galaxy Cat back in 2021. Galaxy Cat makes JK and Lolita apparel.
Okay, wow. That kind of money signals something.
It really does. It told the security companies, okay, hold on. This isn't just some tiny subculture anymore. This is a serious market worth analyzing.
Right, it validates it.
Yeah.
So let's talk numbers. The whole otaku goods market in China, nearly 30 billion yuan.
Yeah, huge. But Sankeng apparel, just those three categories, it's already around 20 billion yuan itself.
It's a pretty big slice.
It is. But here's where the data gets really insightful. Look at the ARPU, average revenue per user.
Okay.
For Sankeng apparel, the ARPU is nearly 3 times higher than for general otaku goods.
Whoa. Okay, wait. So people buying Sankeng stuff, they might not buy quite as often.
Right, lower average purchase frequency.
But when they do buy, they spend way, way more.
Exactly. It shows a much higher willingness to spend. They're buying higher priced items. It's not just casual browsing, it's dedicated collecting almost.
Got it. Deep passion equals deeper pockets, basically. And how are they buying this stuff? Is it physical stores?
Overwhelmingly online. The reports really stress this contrast. You've got over 1,000 physical stores for general otaku goods across China,
Okay.
but only about 60, maybe a few more now, for Sankeng apparel. So nearly all of that 20 billion yuan market is happening online.
Mostly Taobao, I assume.
Primarily Taobao, yes. That's the main platform.
Okay, so let's break down the three pits themselves. JK, Hanfu, Lolita. The reports say they're roughly equal in market size, in revenue terms.
Yeah, roughly equal revenue share between the three. But what's interesting is how that plays out with price points and the number of people involved.
How so?
Well, JK uniforms are, on average, the least expensive of the three. Hanfu is kind of in the middle, price-wise. And Lolita, with all the complexity, the layers, the materials, that's the most expensive.
Okay. So if the total money spent is about the same, but JK is the cheapest, that must mean way more people are buying JK stuff, right?
Yeah. Precisely. You got it. JK uniforms have, by far, the largest number of enthusiasts.
And that makes sense, thinking about the pits idea. It's probably the easiest one to dip your toes into.
Exactly. It's the most accessible entry point. You don't need a whole elaborate head-to-toe outfit like you might with Hanfu or especially Lolita.
Right.
You can just buy, say, a pleated skirt or a specific style of cardigan or shirt and just mix it into your normal everyday clothes.
So you can try the style without a huge commitment. Makes sense. And just to be super clear, who are the people buying and wearing these JK uniforms in China?
Oh, the reports are very explicit on this. It's overwhelmingly women buying them for themselves to wear as fashion.
Okay, so that accessibility plus the sheer number of enthusiasts, Sounds like a recipe for growth. What do the predictions say, especially for JK?
Well, the security reports are forecasting that the number of JK uniform enthusiasts in China could top 40 million by 2025.
40 million.
That's
Wow.
a huge number. Now, you always have to take enthusiast market predictions with a grain of salt. They can be volatile.
Sure.
But the underlying growth trend, based on the data, is undeniably strong. There's real momentum there.
Okay, so 40 million enthusiasts, massive growth. But the reports still suggest the JK market size in yuan will probably stay roughly level with Hanfu and Lolita, even with way more people. How does that work?
It just loops back to that average price point.
Yeah.
Even with millions more people buying JK items, each item costs significantly less than a typical Hanfu or Lolita outfit. So the much higher volume of sales kind of balances out against the lower price per sale.
Gotcha. More people spending less each versus fewer people spending a lot more.
Yeah.
Okay, so where did this intense interest in Japanese school uniforms even start in China? What are the roots?
The reports trace it back culturally to Japanese anime that started circulating, back in the 80s.
And it wasn't just seeing the uniforms themselves, was it? It was more than that.
No, exactly. That's the crucial part. The anime didn't just show the clothes. It showed an entire kind of idealized lifestyle associated with them.
Like what?
The suburban houses, the cool shopping streets, but especially the depiction of Japanese school life itself. The uniforms, yeah, but also the after-school clubs, this sense of community and fun outside of just hitting the books.
And that must have looked really different compared to the typical Chinese school experience back then.
Absolutely, a huge contrast. Chinese schools often had very simple tracksuits, if they had uniforms at all. And after school wasn't really about casual clubs.
Right, it was more like intense extra lessons or training.
Yeah, often very competitive training, maybe at children's palaces, focused on skills for the future. So the anime version with the cute uniforms and the relaxed club activities, it felt novel, aspirational, almost like a fantasy world for some viewers.
So the uniform became a symbol for that whole appealing package. Were there specific anime that were really influential?
The reports mention a few that enthusiasts often cite, things like K-On!, Lucky Star, Hookah, and they note that studios like Kyoto Animation were particularly well regarded because they drew the uniforms and how the characters actually styled them with so much realistic detail.
Interesting. Any other big influences besides anime?
Yeah, Japanese idol groups, particularly AKB48, played a role. They wore these uniform-style costumes all the time on stage.
Oh, yeah.
So that showed that, these uniform elements weren't just for school. They could be fashion. They could be adapted, worn as trendy outfits outside of that context.
And then things really hit the mainstream, didn't they?
They did. The big catalyst was the Chinese version of that reality show, Produce 101. It was called Chuang 2020.
Okay, I remember that.
Their theme song video had all the contestants dressed in these really stylish uniform-inspired outfits, and that just exploded online.
How so?
It kicked off this massive trend where people, mostly young women, would film themselves wearing JK-style uniforms, dancing to that theme song, and uploading the videos everywhere. TikTok, Weibo, all over.
Wow. That must have pushed it way beyond the original anime or idol fans.
Totally. It created huge mainstream awareness and, importantly, a widespread desire to wear the style. It really cemented JK uniforms as a legitimate casual fashion trend in China.
Okay, so you've got this massive, fast-growing demand. It's fueled by anime dreams, idol style, reality TV. Where did people actually buy these uniforms at first?
Well, as often happens when demand spikes like that, the initial supply was, let's say, inconsistent.
Meaning fakes.
Yeah. Lots of unlicensed factories in China just started churning out low-quality copies, the Shanzai versions, and selling them super cheap on Taobao.
But because the whole appeal was tied to this idea of the authentic Japanese uniform, rooted in anime and that idealized lifestyle, people started wanting the real deal, or at least something better.
Exactly. The desire for authenticity became a big factor, and that led to this really unusual phenomenon, the emergence of an informal group dubbed the JK Police.
The JK Police. Seriously, that sounds intense. What were they doing?
They were basically self-appointed guardians of authenticity, patrolling social media, Taobao listings.
And calling people out.
Oh, yeah. If they saw someone wearing what they considered a bad fake or something inaccurate, they'd call them out, sometimes using this term, chuan shanjia.
What's that mean?
It's slang, basically means wearing bootleg or wearing fake gear. It comes from the word for pangolin. Apparently, there's some wordplay involved.
Okay. So they policed the wearers.
Wearers and sellers. They would also report vendors who were selling really poor imitations or just blatantly copying existing Japanese designs to the platform regulators.
Wow, so it was this informal, consumer-driven pressure that actually started pushing the market towards better quality.
Absolutely. It had a real impact, and it helps create this kind of, well, hierarchy of value among enthusiasts.
A hierarchy for JK uniforms. Okay, tell me about that.
Right. The reports lay it out pretty clearly. At the very top, the absolute most prized items, actual official school-designated uniforms from specific schools in Japan.
The genuine article.
Yeah.
Super hard to get, I imagine.
Extremely. Then, just below that, were uniforms made by established Japanese companies that specialize in making school uniforms, but maybe standard designs not tied to one school.
Okay, still made in Japan.
Right. Then came items made in China, but specifically using Japanese-sourced fabrics or materials.
Interesting detail.
Then you had the purely domestic Chinese brands that were designing and making their own stuff. Below that, individually custom-made items. And right at the bottom,
A Shanzai.
the low-quality fakes, yeah.
So how on earth did enthusiasts get hold of those top-tier items, the real Japanese school ones?
It involves some effort. The reports mention people scouring Japanese auction sites like Yahoo Auctions Japan, looking for used uniforms.
And how would they buy them from China?
Often through proxy services. There are companies, one mentioned is called Ripai, that act as intermediaries. You tell them what you want to bid on, they handle the purchase in Japan, and then ship it to you in China.
Like personal shoppers for obscure Japanese auction finds.
Kind of, yeah. And for the standard design uniforms from Japanese makers, sometimes you could buy directly or find importers. Companies like Konami became popular.
Konami.
Yeah, they specifically make uniforms intended as fashion items. They have shops in places like Harajuku and Osaka, and now they even have an official store on Tmall in China.
Ah, smart move.
And people also sought out older, more traditional Japanese uniform manufacturers too, like Konko, Tanbo, Nishiki, brands with history.
Okay, so you had this demand for authentic Japanese stuff, initially met by fakes. Then this JK police pressure pushing for quality. How did the Chinese manufacturers themselves react and evolve?
That's really the key to how the market matured. They responded to that pressure. Initially, yeah, a lot was copying. But driven by the demand for better quality and authenticity, they started to seriously step up their game.
Moving beyond just copies.
Exactly. Improving manufacturing, using better materials, and crucially, starting to develop their own original designs inspired by the JK aesthetic, but not direct copies.
And Taobao remained the main place to buy and sell all this.
Oh yeah, absolutely central. The numbers the reports give are just staggering. Over 200,000 vendors listed as selling JK items on Taobao.
200,000.
Yeah. And over 250,000 for Hanfu, maybe 50,000 plus for Lolita. It's a massive, crowded online marketplace.
So within that huge ecosystem,
Yeah,
did any leading domestic Chinese brands emerge in the JK space?
definitely. The reports highlight a couple of key players. One is Zongpai Uniform Hall. They were founded back in 2011, based up in Harbin.
Okay.
They're seen as a leader, known for pretty high-quality design and manufacturing. One of their really popular original uniform designs, called Shan Shui, apparently sold over 60,000 units.
60,000 of one design. That's serious volume.
It really is. Shows the scale. And the other big name mentioned is Galaxy Cat.
Right, the one Pop Mart invested in.
Exactly. Founded more recently, 2018, they do JK, Lolita, and related sort of lifestyle goods. Their whole marketing thing is being the third space of girls' life, after home and schoolwork.
Interesting angle.
What's notable about them, according to the reports, is they use a lot of data analysis to figure out what designs will be popular, driving their product development. Apparently, it gives them a high hit rate.
Data-driven fashion.
Sort of, yeah. And with that Pop Mart investment, they're now expanding their physical store presence too, not just online.
Okay, so we've seen this trend absolutely explode within China. Is it staying contained there, or is it spreading?
Well, it's not entirely confined to China. The reports do mention that some private schools, particularly in South Korea and also parts of Southeast Asia, are actually adopting Japanese-style JK uniforms.
Really? Why?
Seems that they see it as a way to boost their brand image, make the school look more appealing and maybe more prestigious or fashionable to potential students and parents.
Huh. That's fascinating. It kind of raises a question then. Could Japanese-style uniforms become a significant export product across Asia?
It's possible, I suppose, but what's maybe even more interesting is the dynamic within China itself. Well, the whole trend kicked off because of Japanese influence, this desire for the authentic Japanese thing. But now, the market is developing this really strong domestic cycle. Chinese design, Chinese manufacturing, Chinese consumption, led by these increasingly powerful Chinese brands like Zongpai and Galaxy Cat.
Right. It's shifting from being about importing or copying a foreign idea to building a whole domestic industry around a style that happened to originate elsewhere.
Exactly. And the reports even touch on a really provocative potential outcome of that shift.
Oh, yeah. What's that?
Well, you know how Doraemon is so ubiquitous in China, so deeply integrated that apparently some younger people might mistakenly think Doraemon is actually Chinese.
Huh. Okay, I can see that happening.
Your report suggests something similar could theoretically happen with JK uniforms down the line.
You're saying as Chinese brands dominate and create their own distinct styles, the connection to the Japanese origin might fade for some consumers. They might just see it as Chinese fashion.
It's a possibility that's floated. As domestic production and design become the norm, that original Japanese link might become less and less prominent in the minds of future generations.
Wow, that's a pretty wild thought experiment. Okay, so wrapping this up, thinking about this whole deep dive, what's the main takeaway for you?
For me, the JK uniform trend in China is just such a clear case study. It shows how these, seemingly niche subcultures, especially ones sparked by foreign media or culture, can balloon into really significant domestic markets.
Right.
And it's driven by this unique mix, specific cultural factors like that aspiration tied to the anime version of school life, specific consumer behavior like that incredibly high ARPU and the online focus, and this really dynamic supply chain that matured incredibly quickly, partly thanks to that weird JK police phenomenon demanding authenticity.
And I think for you listening, this deep dive really highlights how paying attention to these niche trends, really understanding the why behind consumer passions, even for something seemingly quirky like JK uniforms, can actually reveal major underlying business opportunities and significant market shifts happening.
Absolutely. And it leaves you with a fascinating final thought, doesn't it, about authenticity and origin. As these Chinese domestic brands get stronger, as they innovate with their own designs, will that made in Japan cachet, that premium for the origin, start to fade over time in China? Maybe across Asia, too.
Or will the original always hold some special value?
Exactly. And it makes you wonder what other products or styles in China that were initially influenced by foreign cultures might be undergoing similar shifts right now. Moving from fascination with the import to domestic dominance, maybe even towards a future where the foreign origin is forgotten by some, could be happening unnoticed in other areas, too.